Manohar, could you tell us a bit of the sex worker campaigns that Karnataka is involved in at the moment,
Okay.
since you are active on that front?
See, in Karnataka, actually, if you
Yeah,
look at India,
yeah,
I think the first sex workers trade union is in Karnataka. That's called Karnataka Sex Workers Union,
I see,
and it's functioning for the last 1.5 year.
I see.
Basically, uh, saying that sex work is work,
Yeah,
and sex workers should be entitled to all labor rights. And they tried to get it registered under Trade Union Act,
yeah.
and it's rejected. And it's
On
going
what
to
grounds?
that's vague ground saying that sex work is illegal,
I see.
and we are challenging it. We'll challenge it both in the labor courts and if need be in high court and wherever it has to be challenged.
What are your demands on this issue in on the issue of sex work
See, it's basically all demands are connected with actually
legalization?
workers' rights,
Okay.
because yeah, one step is actually recognizing sex workers as workers with full labor rights, and as of now, sex work per se is not criminalized, but
Yeah,
lots of things around sex work is
I
criminalized,
see.
and we are against it.
Yeah,
And that's basically that. And also, I think we feel the whole laws that deal with sex work
yeah,
are very moralistic, and they conflate sex work with trafficking. They're completely not evidence based,
yeah,
so somewhere we feel that we need not a moralistic or knee jerk reactions, but we need actually uh, policies that are practical,
yeah.
that are you know been developed after discussing with sex workers, which are thought through policies.
Your point was that in the name of fighting trafficking, a whole lot of anti-sex worker actions are taken. Could you explain that?
Yeah, the problem is that actually the law itself conflates sex work with trafficking.
Yeah,
It's like it's called Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act,
yeah, yeah,
as if other forms of trafficking is moral, you
yeah,
know. And many groups who are anti-sex work,
yeah,
they basically use trafficking as a thing. Basically, they try to conflate that all sex workers are trafficked, all are bought and sold, cheated, which is completely wrong.
yeah, yeah,
Lots of people enter sex work voluntarily because of various reasons,
yeah,
including poverty and a lack of multiple options with a good pay and
yeah,
various things. And also, it's getting completely supported by the US government. It started with
yeah.
the Bush government,
Bush.
and they were actually giving lots of money,
Yeah,
to these organizations, and they, by spreading misinformation that all sex workers are trafficked, so way to rescue them, so way to raid brothels,
yeah,
raid their areas, cause lots of harm to sex workers and to the society as well.
yeah,
So which actually pushes sex work underground, makes them vulnerable to HIV because we are scattered, condoms can't reach you, and then you don't have protection. And so it is basically also, I think this whole anti-trafficking thing that's going around is basically is to prevent legal migration of poor women.
yeah.
So before the collapse of Soviet Union, they had only uh, non-white people
Yeah.
trying to migrate to US and other places.
As sex workers.
No, no,
Okay,
for
okay,
any labor,
okay, okay.
and so they can figure out and they can stop them at the borders.
Yeah,
Now after the Soviet Union collapsed, then people with white skin started moving in. So all this anti-trafficking, this thing on US government is basically is to prevent poor women from migrating to US and other
yeah, yeah,
countries legally. It's basically anti-migrant.
yeah. I see, I see. As far as India is concerned, the full southern states seem to have a interstate kind of sex work migration issue, where because they are migrants, they get treated badly. I mean, like Belgaum, Goa, the Andhra coast and things like that.
No, it happens across India,
Yeah,
and also um, lots of Nepali sex workers working in India, and also hear that there are lots of Bangladeshi sex workers in India.
Bangladeshi.
Yeah,
So
and
that makes
also
their position weaker in that sense because they are not local in
yeah,
that sense.
so that becomes difficult. Like about Goa,
Yeah,
where most of the sex workers were from
migrant.
Karnataka
Yeah,
and also some
Andhra.
from Andhra. So then it becomes very easy for people to evict you. You
Hmm.
know, number one, you're a poor person.
Yeah.
Number two, you're a migrant, and number three, you're a sex worker.
Hmm.
So all these things work against you. So if
Yeah.
anybody want to grab your land,
Yeah.
very easily they can push you out.
Yeah.
Um,
In terms of the caste connotation, most of the sex workers would be from lower caste, so that's why they
See,
are.
sex workers come from all caste backgrounds, But proportionally, if you look at, for example, Dalits,
Yeah.
if Dalits are X% of population,
Yeah, yeah.
sex workers would be more than that.
I see.
So
Because
definitely,
of poverty, it's linked
yeah,
to.
which is the case with any other profession. Like in India, we all know that most of the low-paid
Yeah,
jobs are
yeah.
done by Dalits and back workers. Sex work is no exception. But we can't say that all sex workers are
What
Dalits.
is society's attitude towards them? I mean, in that sense, as of now.
See, I think society on a whole tolerates sex work,
Yeah,
and people on the street understand somewhere if you can convince, it's easy to convince them if you talk to them on various things. And also, India has these double standards on sexuality, anything to do with sexuality, be it homosexuality, be it child sexual abuse,
yeah,
be it sex education or sex work. So lots of things we do, but we don't want to talk about it.
yeah,
It's a double standards. It is very fine for a man to go to sex worker, and also most of the people expect men before marriage to go to sex workers
yeah,
for sexual experience.
yeah,
At the same time, the men are not stigmatized. The sex workers, female sex workers, are stigmatized. In the same way, male sex workers and transgender sex workers, the clients are not stigmatized. It is a kind of double standards. As far as sex workers don't demand rights, it's okay. The moment they start demanding rights and they want it to publicly, then you start attacking them, and so that's the kind of situation. And also, the maximum harm is not created by general public. It is the state, the government, and some of the religious fundamentalist groups and some of the women's groups who are very narrow in their thinking. They are causing lots of harm,
yeah.
and yeah.
Thanks so much for the perspectives you've given us on this issue.